headlines. Korea's political deadlock continues over a special bill aimed at investigating the April ferry disaster. The main opposition party demands they go for a three-way consultative body with family members of the victims. Torrential rain wreaks havoc in southern parts of Korea, causing landslides and a shutdown of the Kori 2 nuclear reactor. We have the damage report. And a magnitude 6.0 earthquake hit northern California, injuring at least 170 people and causing destruction in the largest tremor to rock the Bay Area in 25 years. Hello and welcome to Arirang News. Happy Monday, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. We begin with the damage report out of the southern parts of the country hit by torrential rain there. A bus was swept away and submerged by floodwaters in the city of Changwon in Gyeongsangnam-do Province, killing one person so far. And we have separate reports of 2 more deaths in other accidents as well. Subway operations have been partially suspended in the region and some roads closed off too. And a nuclear power plant in Busan had to be manually shut down after it was partially flooded by rainwater. No immediate threats of a radiation leak have been detected, according to the Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Corporation. And let's go to the Weather Center now and get weather updates. Bo-gyung is, of course, standing by for us. Bo-gyung, we are getting even more rain in southern parts of the country, right?
That's right. More rain is expected. So if you're in the affected regions, please be prepared for possible flooding and landslides. Now, cold air from the north colliding with hot and humid air from the south has led to heavy downpours. So far, nearly 271 millimeters have fallen in Changwon of Gyeongsangnam-do Province and Busan, up to 242 millimeters today alone. And of course, these are the regions that are experiencing the most damage. Now, some relief as rain clouds, which poured over 100 millimeters per hour of precipitation, has moved out, and also heavy rainfall advisories have been lifted. But due to winds blowing from the east, more rain is in the forecast. Both Gyeongsang-do provinces as well as parts of Gangwon-do Province are looking at up to 50 millimeters, while 5 to 10 is expected for parts of Jeollabuk-do and Chungcheongbuk-do provinces. Please be extra careful on the roads and make sure to tune in for future weather updates. Back to you, Teddy.
All right, Bo-gyung, thank you very much for those updates. And in other news of the day, political deadlock persists over a special bill to probe April's ferry sinking here in Korea that killed more than 300 people. The ruling party has repeatedly rejected the opposition's proposal to include the bereaved families in negotiations. Will Korea's 2 main political parties ever find a way to loosen up this political logjam? Choi Yoo-sun tells us more.
After the ruling party quickly rejected her proposal to invite the victims' families to negotiate the so-called Sewol-ho ferry bill, opposition floor leader Park Young-sun has given an ultimatum to the ruling party to agree to the 3-way talks by Monday.
The tripartite consultation, including the family representatives, would garner the families' consent and public sympathy. We will fight so long as the ruling party rejects the 3-way talks.
The ruling side did not budge.
We need to think about what precedents would be set having the stakeholders participate in negotiations under a representative democracy.
The ferry victims' families are demanding that a probe committee, which includes lawyers and legal experts selected by the families themselves, have the authority to investigate and indict. The ruling party says that would destroy the principle of criminal law. And so the Saenuri Party floor leaders meeting with the victims' families bore no fruit on Monday, with the 2 sides only confirming their differences. The months-long political discord has left Parliament in paralysis, with a lineup of major economy and reform-related bills kept in limbo. Ruling party leader Kim Moo-sung on Monday urged the opposition to work towards swift passage of the economic bills that are closely linked to the people's livelihoods. If the rival parties fail to break the impasse by Monday, it will not only further dampen President Park's economic and reform drive, but start a domino effect of delaying the parliament's government audit and budget planning for next year. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
And President Park Geun-hye is growing impatient with the political gridlock that's blocking a number of other bills from getting any legislative attention. In a meeting with her senior secretaries this morning, she said the government cannot do its part in reviving the Korean economy until the National Assembly passes related bills. The president also pointed out how proposed changes to the country's safety management structure are not moving forward. President Park, however, did not refer to the ferry bill itself or the victims' families' demand to meet her, sticking by her stance that Parliament should resolve this issue. And moving on, North Korea has not test-fired any missiles for well over a week now. Watchers say Pyongyang most likely wants to avoid upsetting Seoul ahead of the upcoming Asian Games, which will be held in the South Korean city of Incheon, with North Korean athletes in attendance. Son Jung-in has more.
2 days before Seoul and Washington kicked off their annual 2-week Ulji Freedom Guardian exercise, the North Korean military began making threats.
If we decide South Korea's small and big military bases will turn into a sea of fire and a heap of ashes.
Pyongyang has long denounced the drills as a rehearsal for an invasion of the North. But since it fired 5 short-range rockets into the East Sea on August 14th, the North has shown some restraint. Instead, it has proposed talks to discuss logistics for its athletes and cheering squad at the upcoming Incheon Asian Games.
The North Korea proposed talks on the practical issues related to the Asian Games through an exchange of letters.
Experts view the North's latest contradictory moves of threats and offers of dialogue as a typical stick-and-carrot strategy.
As opposed to their threatening remarks in written words, I think the North will propose more dialogue in the future to send its delegation to the Asian Games.
Many experts believe inter-Korean talks will resume after the joint drills are over, but most agree it will be difficult to attain many tangible results on issues such as holding family reunions and resuming tours to North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
The North Korea issue will take center stage at a meeting between U.S. President Barack Obama and Chinese President Xi Jinping at an upcoming summit of Asia-Pacific leaders. This is according to Robert Wang, a senior diplomat at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing. He told China's Global Times that the two leaders will discuss North Korea's nuclear weapons program and other issues regarding the Korean Peninsula at a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of November's APEC summit in Beijing.
For the latest in news that impacts Korea and the world, join Kang Chae-ri for a lively half hour that covers politics, business, international news, and much more. Live at 8 every weeknight on Arirang TV.
Human Rights Council headquarters in Geneva on Thursday, finding ways to persuade. Supported by government stimulus measures, Korea's domestic consumption seems to be showing strong signs of rebounding. Our Kim Jin details how consumer confidence is recovering.
The economy is finally showing signs of regaining vitality after months of sluggish domestic consumption following April's ferry disaster. Over the past few days, stores saw sales of gift sets soaring ahead of next month's Chuseok holidays or the Korean Thanksgiving holidays. The country's 4 major department stores say gift purchases, including fish and other food products, jumped as much as 100%. Data by the Ministry of Strategy and Finance indicates an increase in private consumption in July. Real estate transactions increased more than 90% last month compared to the same period last year, while credit card transactions increased by more than 5%. The improvements came shortly after the government unveiled a string of stimulus measures, including steps to make it easier for home buyers to borrow money from banks. Experts expect consumer confidence to gradually keep improving in the latter half of this year, given that the central bank has made it clear it will seek easier monetary policy to help spur economic recovery. The Bank of Korea cut its base rate by 0.25 percentage point, ending a 15-month freeze earlier this month. But in order to greatly improve consumer confidence in the months to come, Im No-jung from Seoul-based IM Securities and Investment emphasized the need to improve the employment rate.
Deregulation in the service sector, such as medical and the legal sectors, would help increase the country's employment rate, which could then increase the amount of consumer power among households.
He adds the rate of increase of private consumption is expected to rise to the 2% range in the latter half of this year. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
In today's fiercely competitive retail market, local department stores are doing all they can to lure in the shoppers. One of the newest strategies here in Korea targets a specific group of consumers, designating an entire section just for them. Hwang Jie tells us more.
From suits, shirts, and briefcases to shoes and golf accessories, this section of a mall has just about everything a man would want to buy at a department store. It's called an exclusive area for men.
In the past, I had to go from floor to floor looking for things, but here they have everything I need, so it's very convenient.
With a growing number of male customers taking their wallets to local department stores, marketing teams have decided to set aside a zone just for them. Sales from male shoppers has been rising steadily over recent years, with the figure jumping more than 30% each year since 2011. The exclusive sections have been a popular draw not just for men, but for other segments of the population as well. Long rows of dried pollocks attract mothers looking for dinner items. This corner in a liquor store is dedicated solely to Korean traditional drinks. Here, shoppers can find any and all kinds of local alcoholic beverages.
I am delighted to see all kinds of local drinks here, especially these days when Korean traditional drinks have lost some of their customers to foreign brands.
Sales managers explain that the move has helped them raise sales and drop prices as they're able to make direct deals with producers.
By operating a differentiated service, we provide not only something to see, but also cheaper prices. We are getting good reviews from customers.
Amid increased competition among department stores, they're encouraging customers to open up their wallets through this unique form of marketing. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Korea's largest auto group appears to be losing ground in the domestic market. According to the Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association, the combined market share of Hyundai Motor and its sister brand Kia Motors stood at 69.5% during the first half of this year. It's the first time in 7 years that the figure fell below 70%. This comes on the back of the increased presence of imported cars, accounting for 12.4% of the market share in the first half, which is a nearly threefold increase compared to 2007. And this is a pattern that many Koreans won't like to hear, but a new study shows that people here work the second longest hours in the OECD. Koreans worked an average of 2,163 hours last year. That's about 45 hours a week, falling second only to Mexico. From the year 2000 to 2007, Korea actually ranked #1 until being overtaken by Mexico in 2008. The country with the least number of working hours is the Netherlands, with under 30 hours a week. In this week's Industry Insight, we're going to talk about some of the challenges the country's tech startups are faced with. Korea is one of the most wired countries in the world, but Connie Kim tells us there are a number of cultural factors that can give young and up-and-coming entrepreneurs a hard time.
Facebook, Yahoo, Apple. These are just a few of big names that started out small in Silicon Valley. Their big ideas eventually reached consumers, but only after the right financial backers came along. Well, here in Korea, things can be a bit tougher for startups. 1,500 Silicon Valley tech companies raised $25 billion last year. The total for Korea-based startups, a mere 6/100ths of that. But here's an example of Shaker Media, a video creating company that's beat this tough environment with the right idea. Take a look. Making memories last is what Shaker Media does. With its instant video creating platform, Shaker makes dragging and dropping simple and creating professional quality videos easier.
I think of video as the most powerful storytelling medium. When you and I are here face to face talking, that's a powerful storytelling medium. And so I thought that it would be necessary and desirable for many people, everyone, not just the people with the big production budgets and the fancy expensive cameras, to be able to do video, but for everyone to do great video.
It also helps small businesses advertise, in a way helping the Park Geun-hye administration's creative economy drive in search for fresh, innovative ideas for growth engines.
Video ads have 3 times the click-through rate of mobile advertisements. They are effective. But small businesses just couldn't participate because they couldn't afford to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on producing a beautiful video advertisement.
Born 3 years ago, Shaker now serves customers all throughout Asia and the Americas, having raised about $3 million as of May this year. So I know it's quite tough for Korean venture companies to get investment. Where did you get the investment from?
There is a lot of venture capital available here in Korea today. Angel investors are very active. We've also raised money from Facebook executives. We've also raised money from Korea's largest internet company, NHN Investment, and Korea's largest steel company, POSCO Investment.
But that's not the reality for the majority of startups in Korea. Having to break ground on the back of financial guarantees or loans can turn off a lot of young entrepreneurs, especially in a business environment where investing through M&As is not as prevalent as it is in, say, the United States. But Lee says Korea is still a good market to try out new ideas as long as young entrepreneurs utilize a strong IT infrastructure and low entry barrier for startups in the country.
There is a vibrant local market here in Korea, an incredible test bed to test your ideas with a very receptive local market that's ready to try new things.
Connie Kim, Arirang News.
With the growing popularity of Korea's mobile games market, stocks in domestic mobile games firms are skyrocketing, and with it, more and more stockholders in their 30s and 40s are born. According to data by the Financial Supervisory Service on Monday, mobile game publisher Gameville CEO Song Byung-jun's stock value reached over $230 million as of last Friday. That's a rise of $147 million this year alone, thanks to a 200% jump in its stock value at the start of this year. Rival company leaders of WeMade and Sunday Toast's shares have also risen significantly. The rise in stock values of mobile game companies is attributed to an improvement in investment sentiment due to expectations of overall solid profits in the game industry. The French president has ordered his prime minister to form a new cabinet after the government resigned following an ugly feud over the country's economy. And for more, Paul E. is joining us from the News Center. Paul, it's no secret that France has been struggling to climb out of this global recession, but it looks like those frustrations have finally boiled over.
That's right, and we saw the tipping point on this Monday when Prime Minister Emmanuel Valls offered the government's resignation. This after he publicly accused the economy minister for, quote, crossing the line in a recent newspaper interview. Minister Arnaud Montebourg had reportedly slammed the government's handling of the economy, in particular austerity measures he said were holding back France's growth. According to the Le Monde newspaper, Montebourg criticized that Germany was trapped in a policy of austerity and called on his fellow Socialist Party members to stop what he called the excessive obsessions of Germany's conservatives. The remarks quickly drew fierce criticism within the party leadership and raised concerns of internal government conflict. The presidential office has not directly commented on the political feud, but issued a statement that a new cabinet would be formed by Tuesday, one that would have a consistent direction. The fresh political crisis comes as Paris marks its 70th anniversary from the liberation of Nazi occupation in World War II. However, celebrations are expected to be cut short for President Hollande as he faces record low approval ratings and the second major government shakeup this year.
Not exactly in the mood for a party, I guess. And now, turning now to the U.S., Paul, the governor of California has declared a state of emergency after a massive earthquake shook the San Francisco Bay Area earlier on Sunday morning. Emergency services there are saying they've been overwhelmed in the aftermath. How widespread is the damage?
Well, reports say the 6.0 magnitude earthquake sent powerful tremors throughout Northern California, hitting the Napa-Wine County the hardest. At least 172 people have been injured, thousands have been left without power, and water and gas lines ruptured. Although fires have been put out, authorities are now bracing for the next round of aftershocks. Our Shin Se-min reports.
The strongest quake to hit California in a quarter century saw scores of people hospitalized, cause houses to burst into flames, and damage scores of buildings in California's Napa Valley. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake rocked California's wine country at around 3:20 a.m. on Sunday local time, with the epicenter less than 10 kilometers southwest of Napa. The earthquake was felt over a huge portion of California in San Francisco, but the most powerful tremors were recorded in Napa and Sonoma County. More than 30 aftershocks followed the quake, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Officials at Queen of the Valley Medical Center in Napa say at least 6 people have been critically injured, with 120 less seriously hurt. California Governor Jerry Brown has declared a state of emergency and said state officials were working closely with state and local emergency managers, first responders, and transportation officials. California is not a safe zone when it comes to earthquakes, as it sits right above the Pacific's Ring of Fire, where earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur often. In 1906, San Francisco was struck by 7.8 magnitude quake that killed over 3,000 people and destroyed 80% of the city. In 1989, another powerful quake hit in a similar area, killing more than 60 and injuring hundreds. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And over on the southern side of the Ring of Fire, central Peru was hit by a magnitude 6.9 earthquake this morning and a depth of 101 kilometers. However, there has been no immediate reports of damage or injuries.
All right, Paul, thank you. And as the world is fighting back against a deadly outbreak of Ebola in West Africa, a new strain has turned up in the Democratic Republic of Congo. What are health authorities there saying?
Well, the Congolese Health Minister Felix Numbi confirmed 2 fatal cases of Ebola in the isolated area in the north of the country. The infectious fever has already killed 13 people there as the government orders quarantine measures to contain the spread of the virus. Our Kim Han-bin has more.
The Democratic Republic of Congo has identified an outbreak of hemorrhagic fever in the country as being Ebola. Health Minister Felix Numbi said the strain is a new type and appears to be different from the Ebola virus that has taken hold in 4 West African nations. Numbi said it killed 13 people in the north of Congo so far, while 80 others are being monitored, but stressed that the virus appears to be isolated. The hemorrhagic fever has killed over 1,400 people this year, most of them from Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, and Nigeria, making it the deadliest outbreak of the disease to date. Meanwhile, the Japanese government has announced that it would be open to offering an influenza drug known as T-705 to fight the Ebola virus. Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshida Suga said several countries have asked about the drug, and that Japan will be open to releasing it before the World Health Organization rules on its use. Suga said the makers of T-705 in both Japan and the U.S. are in talks with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration about their next step. Kim Han-bin, Arirang News.
And Paul, finally, the new Prime Minister of Thailand has received a royal endorsement as the military leader there further cements his grip of power on the country. How significant is this approval from the Thai king?
Well, the endorsement from King Bhumibol Adulyadej is widely seen as a formality, but the royal blessing is expected to give Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha a boost in public support after the military seized control of the government back in May. Prayuth paid tribute to the Thai king in a ceremony in Bangkok on Monday. This as the former general was appointed prime minister by a majority vote in the National Assembly last week. He was the sole candidate for the post. Prayuth promised to form an interim government in the coming weeks, although power is likely to remain firmly in the junta's hands.
For the Reform Council, I want everyone to get involved as much as possible. It should include political groups, people's groups, economists, academics, civil servants, media, all representatives. I do not want anyone to be left behind in the democratic process.
He added that he wants to free Thailand from a vicious cycle of political instability, but critics say his rhetoric, including references to an agricultural utopia, is outdated and threatens to drag the country back decades. Charity?
All right, Paul, thank you so much for those updates. Always good to have you with us, and we'll see you again in just about 2 hours. And that does it for this edition of Arirang News. Thanks for watching.